You found the WMIX Saturday Sports Show on AM 940 and WMIXSports.com. Cared for by Crossroads Community Hospital. The Saturday Sports Show has been recognized by the Illinois Broadcasters Association as one of the top radio programs in the state. That means the very best mix of local sports content is right here. From the powerhouse on Broadway, the Saturday Sports Show starts now.
Oh, the Saturday Sports Show rolls into the first week in August, and it is a cloudy day, but I think sure things will get better. Denny Zerwinski with Mike Richardson alongside here on the Saturday Sports Show, brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Avery Barton on the buttons again today. Chris Hugo's on assignment. Avery now restarted his streak of days without soda, as we have voted in. You don't have a mic. You have to sit there. Okay? The first weekend of August, we start turning our thoughts and our ideas towards high school sports. Unbelievable to think, but today there is baseball and softball, the junior high variety here in town. If you can imagine that, there's some schools that don't start for 2 weeks. I know Jefferson County doesn't start till the week of the 13th through the 12th through the 16th. But there is some junior high baseball and softball. You can imagine that starting a couple of weeks before school starts. That's kind of a new concept. So that means you've been practicing at least 2 or 3 weeks in July. So next year, tryouts kids will be in May. But anyway, just kidding. We get ready to go here, and we start changing the transition. And once in a while, Mike, we come across things, and we travel these roads and highways, and we have a special guest host today with us as well. We're going to get to that. You talking to some, or you look for things to do, you figure out ideas, and we think today, Mike, that we have a topic that would take way more than 2 hours to talk about, but we got to scrunch everything into 2 hours, and it's going to be talking about high school sports, the IHSA, and all things in between.
Yeah, I think the lineup sets up pretty well today. I really do, and I think it will get shed a little light on some of the issues that, we've been at all angles of this. We've, broadcast a lot of games, all the different sports for high school around the area, and we stay up with all the junior high stuff as well. But there's been a little confusion about things, and we have talked about it at length at our show over the years, and maybe draw a few lines today and some correlations to helping answer some of those questions that people might have, and maybe open up a few eyes today as well.
Well, we're going to open up a few eyes. The guy you go through, and I don't even remember, it was probably Peoria or somewhere up and down the road on the phone or whatever, talked about this idea of having a show where you're commissioner for a day in the IHSA, and we bring in different people, talk about different things. And a guy who came up with that is to my left right now, and he's going to be helping us host this morning, and it's the Benton High School boys basketball coach, Ron Weinmiller. And Ron, thanks for driving up this morning from Benton. We've been looking forward to this, but this is something that you and I and others have talked about, is possibly doing this show again.
Yeah, I think it's something that not just from a basketball standpoint, but from a standpoint of overall, the IHSA does a lot of great things, and I don't think that everyone always agrees with what they do, but we've kind of joked around about it, and I think the guys that we got coming on to talk about it today can maybe answer some questions of some of the things that a lot of fans have. Why does this happen? Why does this have to take place? And hopefully maybe you and I can get some questions answered ourselves today.
We got a lot of good guests coming up, and we'll try to get more into that as we go along here. And we're going to do things a little differently. Normally we come out with a guest right at 8:20. We're not going to do that. We're going to start at 8:30. We're going to do a little bit more talking here, obviously, as we go around. We know there's all kinds of things going on. Mike just got back from flying in from Trenton, New Jersey last night. He was taking care of A-Rod and his issues. Mike has been working nonstop, as we say that in tongue-in-cheek. Mike, are you about done with that?
Yeah, hopefully that was his last Major League home run.
Well, you're busy this week with A-Rod and Johnny Manziel. I know. It's hard to keep up with those two.
Yeah, my man, he's still on the tour, so he's still trying to make friends all over the country.
Well, and
now his dad's involved,
well,
so
yeah,
that's always good.
That's when it always starts, when you get that going on.
Yep.
We'll touch on this. We'll talk a little bit more. And again, like Ron said, the IHSA does 90% or more probably good. But I think, and either one of you can start on comment on this, is no matter what goes on, there's always something you look at and do and go, you know what, maybe they could tweak that, or why did they do that, or what is the problem, how come that goes on? That's kind of what we're doing here today when we talk about that.
Well, I think we've all talked about it in the past, and everybody's in agreement. our association is fantastic. It is extremely well organized. They offer so much for our high school students, boys and girls. It's amazing. But there's always, it doesn't matter how perfect things get. There's always something that, that red flag pops up. You question it at times, and I think today we're going to bring out some of those questions and hopefully get a few answers on there. But I've always had issues with travel and football during the playoffs and scheduling as far as that goes. Probably one of my biggest complaints is more on the basketball side with the officials that go to Peoria. And then the last few years I've seen track. My eyes have been opened a little bit more in some of the, I'm not sure how to say this exactly, but just some of the issues with some of our good track programs around and the level that they've been put in to compete at a state level. So there was just a few, and we're going to hit on a lot more after a while.
And Ron, you are actually, we from this side of the microphone, you actually coach and work in a bit in high school and everything. You see things differently. You're on some committees and stuff, and there's some things obviously we can't go into on the air, but obviously very interesting when you see things as far as from 2 to 4 class and the things that are going on. Your side of the perspective is a lot different than ours.
Yeah, I think that coaches have a different perspective. You always, they may think that you might like to think you want to do what's best for the game, but ultimately you want what's best for yourself and your own program. But I think that the 4-class basketball, you could make a pro and a con depending on where you're at. There's always got to be the smallest school in every class, and there's got to be the biggest school in every class. And I do like the 25%. I think it makes things very equitable. There's really no way you can argue your way around that. It's 25% in every sport, and where you fall, you fall. And I think there's a great chance that in 14-15 we'll be 3A in basketball, and that's just the way it is. So you just gotta go with it. And I agree with Mike, though. I think football, it's becoming harder and harder for schools because of closed conferences to find games. You look at some of the road trips that you guys have taken with Mount Vernon. You look at track, what they've done with 3 classes in track. Those would be my things too to the IHSA, as to what can you do to help these situations and make them better, because everybody knows, transportation dollars are being cut throughout the state, and superintendents, I think, are really going to take a hard line look on, we're not going to Cincinnati anymore to play a football game. And I think we're going to see more of what we saw last year, where Heron and Massac play twice. And I don't think that's good for the game, and I don't think coaches want that, but I think that's where we're coming to with people not wanting to play other people in the setup that we currently have.
And it's a setup that we currently have that we're going to talk a lot about. We're going to have football, we're going to have track, we're going to have schools that have teams in multiple class levels. But what we'll do first is we'll get our first break. When we come back, who are we going to have on, and what are we going to talk about? We'll stay tuned and find out. You're listening to the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
The health of your kidneys has a big impact on your overall health, affecting everything from your blood pressure to your bones. And if you ever have a kidney problem, Dr. Kangura is here to help. Dr. Kangura trained at the Mayo Clinic and specializes in conditions ranging from kidney stones and uncontrolled high blood pressure to chronic kidney disease. Dr. Kangura sees patients at Crossroads Specialty Clinic. For an appointment, call 618-241-9071.
Here's Jeff Schmidt for Schmidt Chevrolet of Mount Vernon.
We don't care where you purchase the car. We would like to do your service work. They can pull their car right in, they shop, get out, and go into a climate-controlled environment. Our customers really do enjoy that. Our customers are very important to us, and we strive very hard to make the buying experience and the service experience second to none. I know a lot of dealers say that in their advertising, but we live it.
Schmidt Chevrolet of Mount Vernon, 3423 Broadway in Mount Vernon.
More Americans are on a move today than ever before. One of the most popular modes of transportation is the motorcycle. Motorcycles take us to our jobs, school, to the beach, and all around the country. If you're a bike rider, your Pekin Insurance Agency, Page Insurance on Crownview in Mount Vernon, wants to make sure you have the best insurance protection while you're riding. Ask about the money-saving auto cycle discount and the experienced driver discount, too. Call Page Insurance at 242-7000 today about motorcycle insurance from Pekin Insurance.
Saturday Sports Show brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
That's Mike Richardson. I'm Danny Zerwinski. Ron Whitemiller, Benton boys basketball coach in the house as well. Avery Broughton pushing the buttons. Chris Hugo is on assignment, as they say. He'll be back next week when we begin the first of 3 weekends of previewing the upcoming high school football season. We'll be doing that all the next 3 weeks. We'll go through all the conferences in Southern Illinois. We'll talk to some teams that maybe aren't in those conferences, and, of course, cover some of those teams that the Mount Vernon Rams are going to play in their conferences and what they look like as well. So busy 3 weeks as we get ready to open up the high school football season. Of course, on Friday, August 30th, the Rams will be at Rochester. You can listen to it or watch it live at WMIXsports.com. There is a poker run to raise money today, or actually next week, August 10th. And they have raffle tickets. First prize is the raffle is $500. This is for the event memorializes Kelly Lewis and goes to fight childhood cancer. You can go to our Facebook site, facebook.com/WMIX Sports. We have a post on there. You can find out all the information you need there as well. We know that as this next segment we talk about, we're going to get into some of this. Everybody's got kind of a list. I've got kind of a list here of things I made during the week of whatever. We've talked about basketball and the 4-class system and whatnot. Another thing I don't get, and I know friends of mine from Pinckneyville brought this up too when I was telling them about what's going to be on the show, is the private and public school aspect. We saw the ugly side of that this past March in Peoria, but to me, the private and public school thing's never going to change unless they decide to go at it and make it fair, because obviously 2A, to me, Ron, you've dealt with this, 2A is the private school class of winning, whether it's a lot of baseball and basketball and softball as far as I can see.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the truth. And you know, I really thought when Robinson won the state title with Myers Leonard and those guys, I made the comment that we may not see another true public school win a state championship again. And then Breeze and Harrisburg win it back-to-back, so that kind of shot that scenario. But I think it's very tough for a true public school to be able to compete in 2A, simply because, you know, you're dealing with so much of those Chicago schools. When you get there, you look at that great Murfreesboro team from 3 years ago, and they get up there in the state championship, and it looked like men and boys. And same thing with Massac, you know, 5 or 6 years ago with that. I mean, just outstanding. They blew everybody away on their way there, and I guess people have got to say, well, you got to beat a good team when you get there. It's a state championship. But I don't think any of Massac or Murfreesboro's kids caught a plane to California the week after the season was over to go enroll there, you know, for the spring semester. And that's, I think, the main complaint that people have is make it fair. But once again, how do you do that? And how do you and I don't think it's something that we fight here in the Deep South. We don't really fight public-private. I don't have to worry about the kid who lives next door to me enrolling at a private school to play against me on January the 5th. And I think that's pretty important that we don't fight that here.
Well, I think another thing that, you know, all of our listeners know that I do a travel summer basketball program through our grade school, and I'm up in Bloomington, I'm in Springfield, I'm in Decatur, I've been to Hazelwood, Missouri, Evansville, Bloomington, Indiana, and travel around with these kids. And regardless if that's the activity that's going on at the time, I'm also around a lot of people who have older kids. And I'm in the hallways in between games, and I'm just standing there as an innocent bystander, and I hear this gentleman say, well, what are we going to do about wide receiver this year? What are we going to do about tight end? I heard that so-and-so, he's available. He's looking to go somewhere. You know, and you just keep your ears open, and you hear all this recruiting going on. Now, the private schools are going to say they don't recruit. That's the first thing that comes out of their mouths. I'm telling you, I hear it all the time. Every summer, I'm in those situations to where I hear these people saying, well, I know I can talk to his mom or her mom. And it's not just boys football. I just use that as an example. It's girls softball. It's girls volleyball. It's a lot of these sports. And I get so offended by that when I'm just standing there and hearing this, and then anybody quizzes some of these people about recruiting. Well, we don't recruit. And that probably sets me off faster than anything, because firsthand I've heard it, and over time I've actually seen it as well.
We are going to probably talk about that. Our guest list is kind of we tried to touch all bases, as many as possible. The first one is we're going to get Assistant Executive Director Matt Troha is going to join us here this morning at around 8:30. We're going to give him a call. We're going to talk to him about what his job entails and the things the IHSA does and doesn't do and what's going on, and just kind of get a feel. And, we're going to ask him some things probably that we may get an answer for. We may not get an answer because they haven't thought about it, haven't gotten to it, or maybe they're working on it and until something official comes out, whatever. We're going to have him on at the bottom of the hour. 8:45, a new guest to the Saturday Sports Show. Massac County High School Athletic Director Parker Windhorse is going to join us, and many people may know him as he's been an assistant coach for Joe Hossman at Massac for the boys basketball team for many years. He's going to join us because Massac County, Ron, you know this, being in the same conference, they've got teams in sports and boys and girls. Some of them are in 2A, some of them are in 3A, and that's got to be a headache nightmare to schedule games for Parker down there at Massac County.
Well, and I think you also look at the fact that where are they going to fall from year to year, and that's one of my complaints about the IHSA. It comes out so late that they've been very lucky, they and Heron, being able to both be 3A the last year and now next year, with the fact that they can move their conference game to the last week of the regular season to avoid being off for 8 or 10 days before they play in the regional. So I think that's a big part of it. They do have one luxury, is they sit so close to Kentucky that they can go into Kentucky and play some of the bigger schools. I know I talked to Coach Hossman the other day, and he told me they're playing Graves County, Kentucky, which is a school Mount Vernon size. They're playing the new McCracken County school, which is a monster school. They're playing Marshall County, so they're playing the three biggest schools in deep western Kentucky. So that helps them out a little bit, but I can't imagine trying to schedule a 3A girls, boys basketball, and then turn around and, all right, we're not playing any of these people because we're in 2A in softball and baseball. So it has to be a nightmare for him, and especially with dealing with travel. They're 35 minutes to get anywhere to play anybody. So I would definitely think that would be difficult as the AD.
And as the AD, we're going to have him on about 8:45. A little after 9, we're going to bring in Jason Carnes, the head football coach at Heron High School. Heron has been one of the teams. I know Mount Vernon has had struggles as well, along with some of the South 7 schools. Heron has had a bevy of schools, even under the reign of Jason Carnes as head coach, where they have had Marion, Anna Jonesboro, Bethalto, Carbondale's now on the schedule. They're going to have Freeburg, I believe, this year, or Waterloo, one of the two out of that conference over there. They've had a bunch, Ron, the non-conference. We're going to have Jason Carnes on because it's hard for them to find a non-conference game right now. And they have an open date next year, week 9.
And they've even gone into Kentucky. I know for a couple years and played in a bowl game, what they call their kind of kickoff in Kentucky. They call it a bowl game, and so I know that Jason they've traveled far and wide to find people to play. And I'm sure that this is probably something we can ask him about. Playing Massac twice is not something that I'm sure he wanted to do last year, but tough times call for desperate measures, and if that's the only person you got to play, you got to play them.
And that's one of the things your school Benton, and they're kind of in a situation. They're going to lose a game this year, but because Carlisle, after this year, they're going to play Trenton Weston twice next year because Carlisle wanted to stay closer to home. Another couple of guests we're going to have on, Andy Salone from Benton. He's the girls' track coach. 3-class track in Illinois. Has a lot of schools, small and wide, playing bigger schools when they run in meets. And then we'll finish it off with Mike McManus, the editor of the Century, or I should say the sports section of the Sentinel newspaper, as he will come on. We're going to talk to him. As, of course, he goes up and down the highways and byways just like we do as far as covering IHSA, and we'll get his thoughts on some things that he sees over the years. We need to take a break. When we come back, we will have the Assistant Executive Director of the IHSA, Matt Troha, on here on the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
Hi, this is Joe David Cummins, President of Community First Bank. By now you have heard about our new One Checking product. The new One Account is a high-interest earning, free checking account designed for everyone. Unlike other banks that pay interest on higher balance, this account pays interest on all balances. From high schoolers to Warren Buffett, One will work for you. You can talk to one of us at 244-3000 and learn about the details. One, exclusively at Community First Bank. You will be one happy customer. Member FDIC.
Your spine is a miracle of engineering, so when pain strikes, your body is telling you to get help fast. The Orthopedic Center of Southern Illinois is proud to feature their spine care team. Doctors Kowalski and Smith, the professionals at Orthopedic Center, specialize in back and neck pain. So put our spine care team on the job. Find out more online at orthocenter-si.com. Stop the pain, fix the problem, and enjoy life again. The Orthopedic Center of Southern Illinois.
Even with summer here, there are not enough hours in the day. Whether it's a family vacation, the kids' camp, or a busier work day, we're all busy all the time. Hi, Roy Schmidt, President at King City Chrysler Center. Since we have started the Chrysler Express Lane service, our service business has increased dramatically, and our customers love it. Chrysler's Express Lane fast oil changes and more is very convenient at any time during the day. No appointment necessary. Just drive up and our Express Lane advisors will get your vehicle right in. Convenience is the name of the game at King City Chrysler's Express Lane oil changes and more. Come by and see us at 1603 Broadway in Mount Vernon, Illinois, and keep your vehicle in top running condition at King City Chrysler Center, where you can count on us.
Saturday Sports Show brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
That's Mike Richardson. I'm Danny Zawinski. Benton Boys basketball coach Ron Weinmiller with us as well, hosting today. And joining us now from northern part of the state, I don't know the exact location, but anyway, Assistant Executive Director Matt Troha of the IHSA. Matt, thanks for taking time out of your summer to join us this morning. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
We're doing well. And first thing I want to say to you for our listeners is we run into you many times during the school year with things and stuff. We want to say thanks to you and your people for helping us and being so hospitable and helpful in every way, especially at Peoria, for all the work that you do and the organization that you have, especially at the Boys State Basketball Tournament 1A and 2A.
Well, I appreciate that, and, that's our job. That's what we're here for, and right back at you. We appreciate everything you're doing to promote high school sports and all the athletes and all the great things happening at the school.
Well, the first thing I got to ask before Mike and Ron jump in here is for our listeners, what are the duties that you have as an assistant executive director at the IHSA?
Well, we have about 10 administrators on our staff, and we all wear a lot of different hats in our roles. Mine is significantly different from my peers, and most of my peers have at least one fall, winter, and spring sport. And so when you're an administrator of a sport, generally you've got one that's in season that you're fielding rule questions and dealing with whatever it might be, coaching objections or different controversies that come up. And then while you're also doing that, you're preparing for your next sport, let's say your winter sport. You're doing your sites for your regionals and your sectionals. And then generally also at that time is when you're getting rule changes for your spring sports. So you're always sort of, you're at different points with each of those sports, but you got different things going on. And with my role in the media, doing the media relations and things, it's a little bit different, but I'm just trying to really keep an eye on, just the things that are going on around the state while also preparing the various things I have to do during the year for the coming school year.
But talk about this. You're busy now. I got to ask this question, too. Isn't this job just kind of a year-round deal where it never stops? That your guys are always working to keep up with what's coming next? It never really ends?
Well, yeah. I mean, in that regard, it doesn't. We certainly get, like folks at the schools, it's a little bit slower in June and July, so that's sort of when we try and get away for a little bit. But, you're right. When, the spring sports end in June, not too long after that, we start beginning, to get ready for the fall stuff. We release the football schedules in late June there, and now that the schedule's turned to August, we're 12 days away, I think, from fall sports starting up. So it turns around pretty quick. So yeah, we work during the summer to get ready for those fall things, and just kind of go season to season like that.
And I know you're in different committees, and I know your role, and we've been blessed to have you on our show, in Peoria when we're up there doing basketball, and we really appreciate that. But in your other roles, do you help with some of the committees as far as officials go, and you've already alluded to getting your football schedules out now a little bit earlier, than ever before. Do you stay up with that as far as different committees go with officials, scheduling, things of that nature?
Well, it can kind of depend. We have different people who oversee different areas. Craig Anderson, who's our football and wrestling guy, is also oversees officials. We have people who oversee sanctioning, one who does sports medicine. So we all kind of dip into, and I would say that more than anybody, I probably dip into a lot of those areas to help out as different things come up. So I kind of have my hand in a little bit of everything, but generally we have one administrator that oversees each of the different rules or topics or whatever it might be.
And you've alluded to the schedules. I think one thing we're seeing in this part of the state is with football, so many conferences are going to a closed conference that it's becoming harder and harder for people who aren't in a closed conference to find people to play. The IHSA has made some big changes in the last 5 to 7 years with other sports. Do you see anything coming down the pike toward football that would change some of the problems with people finding opponents?
It's interesting you bring that up. For folks who aren't aware, the way our bylaws work is that a principal has to propose a new bylaw, and then if there's support at a committee level for it, then all the schools vote on it. In the past 2 or 3 years in a row, we've had several proposals come up that relate to all the conference movement in regard to football. We've had ones where the folks want us to take the Iowa approach, which is where the state office makes all the football schedules for the schools based on geography and size. There's been other proposals where they'd like to just see everybody get in the playoffs so people aren't jumping conferences trying to look for 5 wins. So far, none of those proposals have had enough support to the point where they've been able to get on the all-school ballot. But, there's certainly a lot of people out there who feel like one of those two is the direction to go in, and whether they'll ever get enough folks who can agree on which way and get behind it, I don't know. But, there's certainly some thinking out there that we should change the way we do that.
Speaking of that, and football's a hot topic, basketball as well, I'm curious to know which sport garners the most interest or most concern throughout the year at the IHSA offices from people around the state.
Well, I think football and basketball are definitely the top two. If it's just going maybe solely off page views on our website, we get huge numbers for those, especially the football playoffs. Football is unique in that every school doesn't qualify for the postseason. Boys basketball has just an incredible tradition in this state. Girls basketball is followed, a lot as well. But also then you look at, from a media standpoint, it's the state finals like track and field and wrestling, where you might have 300, 400, 500 different schools represented amongst the 3 classes. Just because of that, such a broad nature, that draws huge interest as well.
With track, I think that's the one that's kind of like if we had a horse race going on, obviously football and basketball will be out front. But it seems to me that track is kind of gaining as we come around the corner, turn 4, heading down the finish line as far as interest. A lot of coaches concerned with the fact that, a lot of schools, maybe a 400 or 500 enrollment, having to run in sectional and state meets against schools 2 and 3 times their size. Is there any thought or anything on the table coming up maybe where could track go to 4 classes, or because of the time constraints, the IHSA is not seeing a 4-class track meet these days?
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. We had a member of our board of directors who has since retired. But one of his thoughts during the final year, he was really kind of pushing for 4-class track and looking into that. So we did do some research on that. I think the big concern was sort of, as you mentioned, would be the ability to run a state track meet. And I think that the research that they came back with essentially said that if we went 4, we'd probably have to go to 2 different sites. I think that was presented to our advisory committee, and they weren't in support of it, of anything coming forward at this time. But, you never say never on anything, because, any school could bring anything forward really at any time. And if there's support for it, it could certainly happen.
And you see a lot of things come down, Danny does it from the radio side, I do it from the coaching side, and we're all fans of the IHSA and fans of high school sports, and you work deeper in it than anybody. What's the one thing as just a fan of high school athletics that you would like to see changed or tweaked?
that I would like to see change. That's a tough one. I'd like to see people treat our officials a little bit better, to be honest with you. They're really good people, and they do it for the love of the game. They don't get paid enough, and they take too much flack, and it seems like it's gotten worse over the last few years. So that's one thing I'd really like to see change. But I really feel like a lot of what we see, there's obviously exceptions, and unfortunately the exceptions, it's when the bad stuff happens that, it tends to get more coverage. But we tend to just see more and more good things, I think, on a level. A lot of it doesn't get reported, but there's a lot of really good things, I think, that are happening out there.
Go ahead, Mike.
Since you brought up officials, no, we're fine here. We're good. I was curious. I know in basketball, we have a big organization of officials down in our direction down here. A couple of them actually, and we're so close to these guys as many games as we do, and we see them all the time. The limitations are in basketball, the 3-time rule, when you are an IHSA official. And I have to say I don't know for sure, and I'm sure you can probably answer this. Officiating in all the other sports, football, softball, baseball, are there limitations on the umpires, officials, and the other sports as well?
You know what? That's actually one of the great myths, actually, or unwritten rules, maybe. But there actually is nowhere in our bylaws or anything like that does it say that you can only work 3 times in basketball. And, we had a discussion about that this year just amongst our staff and just sort of reiterating, Marty Hickman, our executive director, sort of reiterating to all of us, there's no limitation in that regard, and, so don't feel like, get your best officials there to work. So, yeah, that does not exist. I think it's sort of been an unwritten rule. It's probably been followed, from time to time. But, it's not a hard, fast rule.
Nobody? Okay. I got to ask this. Have you copyrighted the name pronunciation guide for Peoria at the state tournament yet? Because that thing's a lifesaver. Your name pronunciation guide for all the players and coaches that you hand out, that you get things going every year at Peoria. Have you done that yet?
I have not, but you would pay money for that, though?
I don't know if I'd pay money, but I don't know. Maybe it would work. Fundraiser. Another question I had to ask that, because that thing is a savior. When you look at the IHSA and you look at the progress and the things that are going on, how is it that you at the IHSA you guys stay so on top and so ahead of things? I mean, how progressive do you guys have to be in this, or is it basically you have to wait on the principals and board of directors before you guys jump in on things? How does that all go down?
Well, yeah, you know what? It's sort of there's 2 different processes within sort of the legislative process. There's the bylaws, and as I mentioned before, those are ones that are brought forward by the schools, have to be voted on by the schools in order to pass. And then we also have what are called policies, and those are what the board can instill a policy. Our board of directors, that's a group of volunteer principals from across the state, and they can change a policy any time. And really, the reason policies exist is because it generally matters where it would be incredibly difficult to reach. Let me try and figure out how to explain this best. But let's say one of the policies is the classification cutoff, the enrollments each year. And the reason that's a policy is, and that's all done by, computer and numbers is how we get those particular numbers. But if we did it as an all-school vote, you'd always have one school proposing that the number be, one below what they are so that they move, down a class. It would be so hard to agree, if the number was 700 for a particular class and the school was 701, say, hey, let's move it to 702 and vote on that. And it would become so difficult. So that's why we have policies in place for our board just to enact. But yeah, I think there's a big misconception that the folks in our office are the ones that are making each of these rules, and I try and clear that up whenever I can, because you always hear IHSA did this, IHSA did that, and people will say, hey, when are you going to change this or change that? And I just say, I don't have a voice in that particular process. As a school person, you have a lot more power than I do.
I also sit on the IBCA board, and Kurt and Beth do a great job of keeping us informed of what's going on. But I think one of the complaints that I hear from a statewide contingent is with boys and girls basketball, why couldn't it be like the NCAA where, okay, in 2014, West Frankfort's going to host a sectional, in 2015, Nashville's going to host a sectional, and sort of set up a rotation as sectionals so that people know when those are coming and that they know that they might need to prepare for a sectional in 2 or 3 years, because those are big deals to schools and communities. And to find out in December, that's a pretty quick turnaround when you're going to host that many people for a week.
Yeah, and you know what? We've heard the same thing recently from the Illinois Athletic Directors Association, and we've talked amongst our staff, and I think you're going to see that for sure in boys basketball. I think Kurt is actually working on a 3-year rotation right now, and we were doing that within a few other sports as well, and one of the drawbacks that we found to that is simply in the turnover sometimes at the athletic director position or the coach position, where a school agrees maybe in softball if they want to do it, and then the new athletic director or coach gets there and says, "What? I don't know what I'm doing." So that particular, it doesn't necessarily work across the board. But I think we found that there's such interest in hosting in basketball, everyone wants to do it, that that's what we're going to try and do. So I think you'll probably be hearing that from Kurt during this school year.
And that's good to know, because I think with the 4-class system, obviously, when 2 to 4, is the fact that a lot of schools were brought into play to host. And I think, like you said, you'll see a lot more schools want to host different things that say, hey, no matter how big or small our facilities are, if we got an opportunity to host, we can host. That helps out in the 4-class system.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, completely. That, and that's one of those sports. There's some sports where if you want to host, you have a part of our website, the schools go into a back door and they can put that they're interested in. Basketball is one of those where just about every school puts in, while sport like softball, because some schools don't have a good facility or they play at a public park. We have more sites than we do have people who put in. So yeah, it's definitely a different animal from sport to sport.
A different animal. We know you got it busy. It's summer and everything, and we appreciate you coming on. Our different animals, our final question, and it's off the topic, off the wall. It's our social media question of the week. And this week's question, I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but what is your favorite type of music to listen to?
Right now, I'm big into country right now.
Who specifically in country?
I'm kind of all over the board. I like Kenny Chesney. I like, let's see, just saw Darius Rucker in concert here about a month ago. So that was cool. I don't know. Who do you got listed out there? You got different people listed?
I mean, we got different things listed. We're going to give our answers on our Facebook page here shortly and stuff, but I mean, Darius Rucker, did you have that sense, because I know you're in the same age bracket kind of like I am, did you ever have that sense of going, where's Hootie and the Blowfish at?
Well, you know what? He played like 3 or 4 of their songs, and it was just, it's a little bizarre. It's like, just remember him from when I was in grade school, and then now looking at him being a country guy, it's kind of weird.
And there's people that are younger than you and I, and they're going, oh, this guy's a great country singer, and you look at him, you go, hello, he was also a rock singer at one point,
Oh, yeah, they have no idea who Hootie and the Blowfish are.
No, none. Hey, Matt, we appreciate you joining us this morning. I know it's busy. It's summer. You guys are getting ready to your busiest time of year over the next few weeks, but we really appreciate you coming on, and we're definitely going to have you on in the future, and we will definitely see you down the road and give you a chat where we can just sit back and talk a little bit just like we did today.
It's always a pleasure. I appreciate you having me, and thanks for all you guys do to support the schools and high school sports and all the good things happening in the community.
Thank you, Matt. That's Matt Troha, Assistant Executive Director at IHSA. He joined us this morning and got a lot of good things we can discuss later on in the show. Before we go to break, I got to mention the Southern Illinois Sting Travel Softball Organization based out of Woodlawn will be holding tryouts on Sunday, August 11th at the Chapman Sports Complex in Woodlawn. 12 and under and 14 and under will be from 1 to 3 p.m. 16 and under will be from 3 to 5 p.m. If you have any questions, call Bill England at 204-9465. Let's take a break and come back. We're going to talk the athletic director side of things as we march our way down through the system from the IHSA to ADs to coaches. You're listening to the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
I'm Jason Lohr with a look at your next rad weather. Cloudy and humid for today as we see a shower, thunderstorm in spots. High of 85, clouds break tonight. Low 58, sunny skies return tomorrow, high of 81. We're down to 60 for tomorrow night. Sunny skies again, a beautiful day on Monday, high of 83. Humid on Tuesday as clouds break for some sun, high of 85. We could see a thunderstorm on Wednesday. Next rad weather from WMIX, Mount Vernon, Illinois.
Backaches, bad hips, rickety knees? Why not try aquatic therapy? The Red Lake College Aquatic Center has more than a swimming pool. Try a 6-lane, 75-foot lap pool, along with a whirlpool 10 feet in diameter and a 10-foot by 20 hydrotherapy pool. Aquatic therapy is very affordable. In many cases, the tuition is waived entirely. With special access and dressing areas for the elderly and physically challenged, getting in the water is easy. Experts are on hand to assist with various areas of aquatic fitness and rehab. Call 437-5321 extension 1207 or visit rlc.edu.
Have you been by Second Chance Auto lately? The selection is amazing. Their lot is full of great-looking, dependable cars, trucks, SUVs, and vans. Family-owned for the past 33 years, Second Chance Auto is the cure for summer new car fever. No one has a better selection of nice vehicles priced under $10,000. Almost all their vehicles come with a generous 3-month, 3,000-mile warranty. There are no dock fees, no shipping fees, no processing fees, and absolutely no gimmicks. Just honest deals at low prices. Second Chance Auto, Route 142 East in Mount Vernon. Call 244-4582. Second Chance Auto.
A digestive problem can affect every area of your life. But now there's a specialist right here in town who focuses on digestive health. Mayo Clinic trained Dr. Tegpaul Atwal has opened the only gastroenterology clinic in Mount Vernon. Dr. Atwal treats acid reflux, gallbladder problems, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcers, and more. For your appointment with Dr. Atwal at Crossroads Specialty Clinic, call 618-241-9071.
The original. Nice. That's all right, Avery. We'll get to you in a second. Saturday Sports Show brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospitals, more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should
Mike
be.
Richardson, Denny Zerwinski, alongside with Ron Weinmiller joining us on the phone now. The athletic director at Massac County High School, Parker Windhorse. And Parker, thanks for joining us this morning. My first question to you out of the gate is, did you ever think you would be interviewed by Ron Weinmiller ever in your life?
It seems like every time we get together, it seems like he's always peppering me with questions. I always felt like it was more of an interrogation than an interview, so this is actually a relief.
Hey, we got you on the show this morning. You're the athletic director at Massac County High School, and we're kind of having an IHSA show, commissioner for a day at the IHSA, one of Ron's ideas, and your perspective at Massac County, I call kind of a tweener school. You got some sports in 2A, you got some sports in 3A. How do you handle all that, trying to set up schedules and everything for all these sports in the different classes that you have?
It's difficult, and I don't want to sound like I'm coming on here to complain, but just the time frame that some of the stuff happens. I know they use the fall housing number from the previous year, and I don't know when exactly the IHSA gets their hands on that, but I would say the one thing that would make it a lot easier is if instead of in one of their summer sessions they made the announcements about the classifications. I mean, they could even do it months before that, and it seems like it would help out, especially. Basketball is the one that we get bumped up in right now, and I would say, looking at some of our enrollment numbers, it'll probably get us in baseball and softball here in the next couple of years because we are the biggest baseball and softball 2A school currently, and scheduling it would be. If Heron being in our conference, if Heron was not in our conference, it would be extremely difficult because we can talk things over. Like in basketball last year, we took a conference date and moved it to the Tuesday of what would be 2A regional week and what was still regular season for 3A, so we were able to handle it like that. Our girls actually went to the Sweet 16 last year in 3A basketball, and they had a whole week off. We weren't able to move anything around there, and next year we're talking about moving that Heron date with them like we do with the boys, and also we have a contract with Paducah-Tillman, but kind of what you're saying with Paducah-Tillman, in the contract we had to put in there, if Massac County is 2A, then we got to move the date, but if they're 3A, then we'll keep it on this date. So you got to kind of get creative with it, which I guess comes as being part of the territory, but like I said, being a tweener school, not knowing until the summer, it can be a little difficult.
And it gives you guys some flexibility, being as close to Kentucky. We talked about that earlier, about you're able to play some bigger schools in boys basketball. I know that I talked to Coach the other day. You're playing McCracken, you're playing Graves, you play Marshall every year. That's got to be able to help alleviate not having to drive to the Metro to find some 3A people to play.
Oh, yeah. And going over there, a lot of people, you know better than I do even, but a lot of people don't realize just how good those schools are year in, year out in sports, and also how big they are. You're talking about schools the size of Mount Vernon, Carbondale, Marion, and
I mean, I think we could get to Marshall in about 30 minutes. We can get to McCracken in about 15. We can get to Graves in about 30 to 45. So it's very helpful. And Kentucky already has so much flexibility in their scheduling. I mean, there are people over there that are always willing to add a game. So we can make a they're not quite as structured as the 16-3 are over there. I think they switched over there. You get to put in like 30 games. They don't even count tournaments, or 35, whatever it was over there. But so
you need a master's degree to figure out how you count games in Kentucky. I can guarantee you that. Because we all had a master's degree, and we still couldn't. We had to defer to the great Steve Woodward to explain it to us, because it's confusing. I mean, and guys get in trouble every year because they mess it up, so they had to make it. They've made it even easier now, where you just schedule 30 games, I think. But, yeah, it is kind of confusing, but it does give you some flexibility.
And even with all that, even saying all that, was the hardest thing in the world is still football, the schedule. We played Heron twice last year, which I know you guys know. We got Freeburg coming to us this year, and we're going there next year, and it's part of a 4-year contract. And week 2, we got to go to Charleston. And the kicker on this is we're not any good. We haven't been good in 4 years. So it's like we can't even find people around here to play us. And we're driving to Charleston, Illinois, and they're going to feed us dinner. And that's what's happening week 2 with us. So even with all that, football's still the beast that drives everything.
You're the one that talk about football. You mentioned Freeburg, Charleston, the Kentucky games. You've played Olney. I know in week 9. I'm not sure that game's still on. Is it about time? And I've been a proponent of this for years. Is it about time that the crossover happens in a river to river? Because to me, that's the way to eliminate a lot of these scheduling problems, especially for schools like Massac, Heron, and otherwise.
We've talked about it, and I've only been been the athletic director 2 years, had athletic director duties for 4 years. We've talked about it. I know it's been talked about it a bunch since then. We're going to pick up Carterville week 2. We already play Anna. I know there are some schools who do crossover completely, even without being said and asked to, and then there are some who don't do any or maybe just one. It gets tough because there is such a big contrast in some sizes that, I think if we could throw a couple weeks in there, it would be good. To do that, because I know there are some matchups, like driving from Sparta to Massac is probably not anything anybody wants to do, and I know driving from Massac to Sparta isn't anything anybody wants to do, just travel wise. So there's some things that have to be considered, but I know that it's something that we're looking into. I know Heron would like to see it, but we got 2 of them. Maybe if we could get another one in there somewhere week 9 or week 1. Week 1 for us is all right, because we do have to play Freeburg, but McCracken County's starting up a bowl game over there, and we would probably jump into that when our contract with Freeburg's up, or who knows? If any of the other, like the Black Diamond having 10 teams, that kind of limits a lot of things, because they just run it out, and some of those local schools. We used to play Johnson City week 9 for a while too, even before the Black Diamond closed up. So them being closed up definitely limits things, because we don't want to have to play at Paducah Tillman. We don't want to have to play, Marion and some of those schools, or Mount Carmel for travel-wise, even though we used to play them. But it's something that needs to be looked into, even though some people are already doing it.
Go ahead.
Do you feel that if it would be a partial crossover, Parker, if you say went 2 and 3 was mandatory crossover, and 1 and 9 schedule who you want, that would even make it a ton easier for the bigger schools?
I think it would. 2 and 3 is actually the weeks that we're going to play Carterville and Anna. And you know what? If you looked at the map, those are probably the 2 travel-wise and even size-wise that would be, because we played Anna forever, and we used to play Carterville, and now Carterville's enrollment's going up a little bit. So, that part of it works out. I'd even like to see a third, and even if we just got to do it on our own, without the conference talking about it, but. It's something I know some people are looking at. Some people smarter than me are going to try to figure something out. But I would say 2 weeks would probably be what happens. And if you look at the schedules, I think Heron plays DuQuoin, but I think adding another one would help them out week 2. And I think a lot of them. I know you guys play crossover. I think week 2 and 3 you do, Ron. I'm not for sure. I know West Frankfort does, but it would be helpful, yeah, to do that.
How much, and I know it goes on all the time, but how much more with the issues that you have with the classes, multiple classes, are your coaches involved with you in scheduling as far as what goes on for their schedules year to year?
Our coaches, me and the other athletic director, the ones who set it up, for the most part. But they're last year the coaches were talking to different teams and trying, hey, I'd like to play this person. I mean, our coaches at Massac, they have a ton of say in who they play. And me being an assistant coach in basketball, me and Coach Austin, we worked, hand in hand with it. We were supposed to go down to Egyptian this year and play a basketball game. And instead of doing that, we're going to pick up the McCracken County Shootout and get to play either McCracken or Marshall. And it was just a thing where, me and Coach Sharp, hey, it looks like we're going to be 3A, and even if we're not 3A, this is probably going to be a better game for us than going down there. So we called up Egyptian and asked what they thought, and they were open to it. If you guys need to get out, we can find somebody that would be a better game for us to do that. So, there's a lot of that going on. In softball, our softball team was so good. I mean, they were willing to take on anybody. They were willing to go through the AL East. We could schedule them at that time, but they like to schedule some bigger competition. And like Ron said earlier, it's so much easier for us just to dip into Kentucky and take on one of those bigger schools.
I'm amazed at everything that goes on and what you at Massac, we're going to have Jason Carnes on next at Heron. They've had a lot of schedule changes. I'm amazed at the athletic directors that I guess don't get the credit because people think it's just easy to schedule and get officials and go on from there. As how big a job is this for you? Does it stop with the school year, or are you always constantly working to try to tinker with schedules and officials and whatnot?
The schedule officials you try to stay 1 to 2 years in advance. Football officials you try to stay 3 to 4 years in advance. Baseball, softball is probably the easier ones just because there are so many dates, and it seems like there are so many more baseball and softball officials. But our schedule, I think I could look at it. I think it's 2 years out, and then that gives you you don't have to work on stuff day to day to do that. I mean, you're tweaking different things, maybe some cancellations, maybe I hate to call them this, but some minor sports and things like we added boys soccer. So new schools are adding soccer all the time, so we're able to pick up a game there. We have tennis, which a lot of schools don't have tennis, so sometimes we have to make some changes there. But the bigger ones, the ones that kind of drive things, you try to stay out in front of and then hope you don't. Like last year, it was with the Heron thing. I mean, we were still looking for a game week 1 in April. It was either April or May when Heron and Massac County decided we were going to play twice. So it was up until the very last second, and luckily there was a friendly school, a school that we know a lot about, and it was a good game for them. It wasn't for us. I don't think we beat them in 12 years, so I'm surprised they weren't beating down that door, from the end of football season. Hey, let's do this twice, but it was, you try to stay out in front of it, because if you wait till the last minute, you're either not going to get quality officials, or you're going to get put in a bind on scheduling dates, and you're going to end up playing sometimes you don't really want to play.
But one game that we will have you play here is our final question. This is our WMIX Sports social media question of the week. And this week's question is, what is your favorite type of music you like to listen to?
I guess like 90s on 9. I graduated high school in 98, so I guess it takes me back a little bit, listening to something on satellite radio like 90s on 9. Not a lot of people know this, and I guess I'm throwing us both under the bus, but Ron and I, we're both big Dawson's Creek fans, so I like to throw in that Dawson's Creek CD every once in a while just to, take me back as well.
Wow. I mean, there's some things I learned. There's some things I learned today about him that I'm just shocked by. Dawson's Creek.
He won't deny it either. I mean, we can talk about it. I mean, he's a fan. I'm a fan. We're not going to talk trash about it.
Hey, all I can say is he has one of the ugliest shirts on I've ever seen in the history of mankind. This black shirt with an orange tee on it. It's about ready to get to me over here. It's sending chills down my spine just looking at it right now.
I thought when he asked me to be on, I thought you guys wanted to talk about that team in the NL Central that went 14-13 in July for the first time, going over 500. I thought you want to talk a little Cubs baseball. I was actually excited about it.
As far as I'm concerned, we could, because I'm one of those fans too. And hey, 500 with the team we're throwing out there and who we're trading off to get better, I think it's worked out pretty well so far in July.
Yeah, we got a ways to go, but
Jessica's going to have to talk to Walt. He's getting poor self-esteem right off the bat by cheering for the Cubs. He's going to feel beat down at a young age. Hey, and you can't lie. You're listening to the Wiggles, and you're listening to every little Disney Junior song on the radio, because that's what my man Walt wants to listen to, and I guarantee you that's what we're listening to in my car. So I know you are too.
he's a big Disney Cars fan, and so we bought him a little $5 CD at Target, and it was songs from the movie. Well, then the last song is called Cars Track, and I thought, well, what is this? It's 25 minutes them narrating the movie that he already watches every day. So when we get in the car, we're listening to Cars Track, and we're at home, we're watching it. It's like, oh my goodness. But hey, he runs the roost. He just lets me live here, and that's kind of how it goes.
Parker, we thank you for joining us this morning, taking time out of your busy schedule in the summer. And I'll give Ron my number, and he can give me yours. We'll exchange, and then I got another guy we can exchange football scores and other things with as we move along. And thank you for joining us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Have a great season. See you guys.
So, yeah, that's Parker Windhorst, Athletic Director at Massac County High School. We need a quick break. We're past top of the hour. We'll come back, and we're going to talk high school football scheduling with Heron head football coach Jason Carnes next on the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
This is Chase Landers with Landers Collision Centers. It's been said that in order to grow, you have to change. Very rarely anymore do insurance companies ask the phrase to go out and get 3 estimates. The new phrase insurance companies are asking is, would you like to take your vehicle to one of our direct repair facilities? This is a way for your insurance company and collision repair center to help relieve the stress you may have from your unfortunate incident. And, as Landers Collision Centers has adapted to this forever-changing industry, we are extremely happy to announce that we are a direct repair facility for over 10 different insurance companies. It's likely that one of them is yours. From dealing with your insurance company, setting you up with a rental vehicle, lifetime warranty on repairs, and of course, Landers free lifetime detailing for qualified customers, Landers Collision Centers literally takes the stress from your incident and turns it back into a shiny new ride for you to enjoy again. Landers is here for you whenever you need us. Big or small, Landers fixes them all. 1-888-LANDERS. That's 1-888-LANDERS.
State Farm, this is Jessica.
Hey, Jessica, Jerry Newman. Does State Farm offer more discounts to more drivers?
Yep, like the good driver discount.
So it's for good, but not great drivers.
No, Jerry. There's also the multi-line discount.
For calling from multiple lines while driving.
You should never use a phone while driving.
I only make calls from my car when I'm stuck in a ditch or something.
Are you in a ditch?
Yes, I am.
State Farm offers more discounts to more drivers than any other insurance company. Get to a better state.
One more reason to call State Farm agent Tony Wilton Mount Vernon at 242-1421.
The health of your kidneys has a big impact on your overall health, affecting everything from your blood pressure to your bones. And if you ever have a kidney problem, Dr. Kangura is here to help. Dr. Kangura trained at the Mayo Clinic and specializes in conditions ranging from kidney stones and uncontrolled high blood pressure to chronic kidney disease. Dr. Kangura sees patients at Crossroads Specialty Clinic. For an appointment, call 618-241-9071.
If you can't pick us up where you live, move. This is WMIX, Mount Vernon, Marion, another Withers Broadcasting Station.
Are kind of starting to fire here this morning on Saturday Sports Show. Hour number 2 of Commissioner for a Day with the IHSA. Denny Zerwinski with Mike Richardson and Ron Weinmiller. Avery Barton pushing the buttons and Chris Hugo away on assignment. As we move around, we went from the IHSA to athletic director. Now we're going to get into the big topic a lot of people concerned with, high school football and scheduling. And joining us now is a guy who has scheduled, rescheduled, will have to schedule some more, is the head football coach at Heron High School, Jason Carnes. Jason, how are you this morning?
Great, guys. How you doing?
Good. First thing we got to ask is, Heron is like Massac County. We just had Parker Windhorst on AD at Massac, and Massac and Heron, along with probably Mount Vernon, Carbondale, Centralia, have to be the schools that struggle the most to schedule. How many schools have you had on the schedule non-conference wise since you became head coach at Heron?
Well, I was looking at last night, guys, and just week 1 alone, this will be my 8th year as a head coach, and we've had 7 different schools in 8 years. Never really a 2-year, except for Alney. My first year in 06, we played Pontiac and never got to play the game because they had a student dying in a car wreck. They got about halfway down. My first game here at Heron got canceled on a Saturday afternoon. Then in 07, 08, we had Alney for a home and away. They dropped us, and we got into that Kentucky bowl game with Massac and played in 09, played Glasgow, Kentucky down in Kentucky. Then in 2010, played Hopkinsville down at Massac. Then in 11, for 1 year, had the Balto Civic Memorial. And last year had Massac twice. Week 1, and then 2013 coming up this fall, we open with Waterloo. So 7 different teams
in 8 years. It isn't a good, because every year, you're going in week one with, no kind of notes, kind of blindsided. But, we've been lucky to, the only game we lost in 2009 was that Glasgow thing, and I feel like still it kind of got stolen from us. But that's the only game that we've not started off. But it is what it is. But it's just very difficult as a coach and a staff to prepare for week one because we kind of go in blind.
When you go in blind like this, and we talk about scheduling, you guys are kind of like I call a tweener school. You're big enough, pretty big in 4A, but you're not quite big enough to take on maybe a Marion or a Mount Vernon football-wise. The Black Diamond's closed. There's not a lot of schools around. You're actually open in Week 9 of next year in 2014. You already had played Massac twice last year. What's the likelihood you're looking at maybe playing another team twice, or are really going to have trouble filling that scheduled date in Week 9?
Yeah, you're right, Danny. I mean, it's looking back last night, up till so many years, even for the week one, Heron played Petenyville, kind of like Carbondale Murphy week one on a Saturday night. That was the 2 Saturday night games here in Southern Illinois. Was Heron and Petenyville. And then I think for 2 years after 2003, we stopped playing in 4 and 5. Before I took over, we had Chester. And I know in week 2 we had Florida back there for 1 or 2 years, but in Florida in a mix. And, we've had different teams, even in week 2. Florida, Sparta, Bethalto, Carbondale. 4 or 5 teams in 8 years span. But yeah, our week 9 is back open. It's got to be where we met as a conference back in May. I talked to you about this previously this summer, and we met, and all the head coaches and all ADs, and just talked briefly on trying to get the crossover. And schools like DuQuoin, those were totally for the 100% for the 4 games, weeks 1, 2, 3, and 9 crossing over. Some teams were for it, like myself, and some teams on the Mississippi side were totally against it. Then it got talked down to, even as the meeting went on, down to 3 games. And when we left that meeting back in May, it was decided that pretty much almost everybody in the conference agreed to having weeks 2 and 3 a crossover in about 2 years. I think either in 14 and 15 start weeks 2 and 3 crossover. I think it's going to the principals here in August or September to vote on that, and to kind of what that will entail is every 2 years coaches get together before the sometime in the spring or early summer and decide who the top teams are on both sides, and the top teams that play each other home and away weeks 2 and 3, and determine who you play week 1 and week 9, so you don't play a team twice. Like if Benton and Carterville are ranked in the top 2 and they already play week 1, of course they can't play weeks 2 or 3. So that was kind of the last decision. They didn't want to be forced to play. Some people in Mississippi didn't want to be forced to play all 4 games. But still, really, Danny, in a reality standpoint, weeks 1 and 9, that helps us for 2 and 3. But for 2 and 3, we've had Carbondale and DuQuoin for years now, and DuQuoin's been playing us for years, and DuQuoin's really never been afraid to play anybody down here, and they're going to have trouble in the future scheduling games of teams their size because they're playing 4 and 5A schools and they're 2A now. So, I don't know. It's just it's a mixed feeling, but we're still, us at Harrisburg are still going to have weeks 1 and week 9, whereby the other 10 teams in both sides are going to they're almost already crossing over, so it's okay for them. But the feeling was it's not here in Harrisburg, you're kind of out here on this limb.
Do you think, Jason, that it's more of a process of how they do the playoffs more than people wanting to play Heron and Harrisburg? And what I mean by that is somebody might be willing to play you, or you might be willing to play somebody else if you weren't so worried about the 5 wins and qualifying for the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, Coach. I mean, I think that's what's, if you go back to the way it used to be with 6 wins, or it was like other states where everybody got in, but I think people hold that hand up, count their 5 fingers, and they think they're going to be the mayor of the city if they get to 5 wins, and they may not be in the playoffs for a school 10 or 12 years and get in the playoffs 1 year. To me, that's not the way you built the program, just because of my father and the way I grew up. But yeah, I was lucky to grow up in a town like I did, but just talking around, how as a young coach you learn. But I think you get to put some tougher teams on your schedule and get yourself ready for a tough conference. And it's like I said before, Ronnie, I would hate to have 4 non-conference games that were not very good teams. Like if we played schools that were 200, 250 students. And then I went 4-0 in my non-conference games, weeks 1, 2, 3, and 9. And I went 1-4 in my conference and got 5 wins. I don't deserve to be in the playoffs and go play a 9-0 school. You know what I'm talking about? I brought that up in the meeting. Why would you want to have 4 easy games if you got a really good chance of blowing teams out to get your conference? In your 5 games, you only win 1 game in your conference, 1-4, but you're 4-0 in non-conference. You're 5-4, and I'm a 2A school, and 5-4. You get to go to 9-0, but also Belleville Althoff. Welcome to the playoffs. That's not what it's about.
I got to ask it, and I know that, you know, with Heron, like Massac, you have different teams, different sports, boys and girls wise, that bounce back and forth between 2A and 3A. Has the thought ever come into mind at Heron of several ideas on what to do as far as, hey, you know what, maybe the next 5 to 10 years we may have to get back into South 7 based on how the enrollment and everything is changing as far as the IHSA goes?
On our part, no, but you always hear, you know, out in the community or hear, you know, people are saying, oh, I heard it, you know, they're going to redo that. But every year, you know how the enrollment goes. You guys know better than me. They come in, enrollments for us is anywhere from 710 to 721 to 730, whatever it is this year. And then reality is over 100 something, about 100 students are shipped in here from different towns, Carterville, Marion, that come to school here that we can't even count to use to play sports. And, you know, we get paid a little extra to bring these students in. So really every year our enrollment is, you know, you get to January, our enrollment's usually, you know, 675, 660, but then still we can't use some of those, you know, kids dropping out. But usually when you talk about population in the school and the walls of the Heron High School to pick from to play sports teams, you're at, you know, 615, 625, 630 to pick from teams. So, I mean, it's not far off from, you know, Massac, Murphy, and Harrisburg in their enrollment. So, that's, you know, we always get stuck at that, like you said, in between at 700 and something. But no, I don't think so. I just think that for travel, you know, in high school sports, basketball, whatever it is, football, I don't think, especially football, for having 4 non-conference games, you should have to get on a bus and travel more than 2 hours to play a football game. Now, playoffs are a different story, but for high school, with schools all within a parameter of probably the farthest schools on the River, what? Probably Harrisburg over to Sparta, you know, or Nashville down to Massac, but that's still, you know, 90, whatever. It's still under a 2-hour trip. So you shouldn't have to travel anywhere, you know, farther than that. But, you know, we're going to Waterloo. You know, we're looking now for future for, you know, week 9, and there's no possibilities right now. And, you know, a couple of years, you know, last year was, when we talked about it, some people didn't know the true facts on the week 9 game. Us and Massac tried, and it was down to going to Indianapolis, downtown Indianapolis, playing some, I think, old John Hart's team that he's won like 7 state championships over there and be on ESPN3 and get paid money, or go to downtown Chicago and play a week 1 game. That was the only possibilities last year. So we contacted the IHSA and said, no, you guys can play each other, and hopefully you'll find somebody the next year. I mean, it wasn't like we just wanted to do that, but that was kind of forced on us. We did it. And in the long run, it kind of helped us, but, you know, it didn't help us because we played them twice and they didn't win a ball game. So in the end, it didn't help us. So I'm not like that. I don't want to play a team that's not been in the playoffs or not had a winning record in the last 5-10 years, only won a couple of conference games. I'm not about that. I'm about making my team better by playing tougher competition. That's how I take it in any sport. If you play some tougher competition, it's not about the wins and losses. They'll take care of themselves.
At what point, Coach, do you think it gets out of the coach and the AD's hands and the superintendent steps in and says, hey, we're not going to Waterloo when we don't play Carterville, who's 5 minutes away, and we're not going to School X when, hey, we can play Mount Vernon, they're only 20 minutes away? At what point do you think that travel becomes as much of an issue as who you play?
I think that may be, you know, in the close future, but I'm not against that. I mean, in a reality, because the travel, let's not get, and the school's not getting reimbursed for travel.
Right.
And, you know, I totally agree with you, Coach, and it's a thing where, you know, the balance here and there is just, it's tough to do, and it's, you know, thrown upon your lap, and, you know, in the conference we're in, and it just seems like I feel like sometimes at the other side of our conference, thinks that our side is just big and, you know, our athletes are just much better. And I don't think that's the case some years. You know how it goes in cycles. You get some talent some years you don't. You just got to go with what you got and coach the best of your ability and, you know, develop the character and the things you develop in the kids and in your program and take care of itself if you build on a strong foundation. And then if you got to play schools a little bit bigger, you have to. I mean, I'd rather play a school, you know, down the road to Mount Vernon, like you said, or those schools then, you know, have to play 8 games or something and have to win 6 out of 8. You know, but I don't look at, you know, at all try to get 5 wins. Take one game at a thing, and I'm not one of those coaches. I know we have coaches around here that look at that schedule and say, we may get a win here this week. I don't know. They're going to be good this year. Win here and count your wins ahead of time. It's one game at a time. And bottom line is, you know it, Ronnie, you do a great job at Benton, is you just try to get your team better. And it's the thing that get your team better, and their team, you don't worry so much about what the team does. If you get your kids better and they execute, then it takes care of itself.
But that is the problem, and that's what I had as a notation right here. When you started alluding to the 5 wins, to quote, get in the playoffs, that's the problem, and you've already said it a little bit, but I've got to follow through with this. It's just some coaches, they're not possibly there for a career. They're not possibly there to build a program. Maybe this is a stepping stone site for them, and they just want to achieve as much as they can quickly and get in the playoffs and roll the dice more or less. But to build a playoff or to build a program, you know, you've got to be willing to sacrifice some things. And I agree with what you said wholeheartedly. I just can't believe that some of these people put so much emphasis on that just for a quick fix and not for a long-time solution to their program itself.
Yeah, you know, it's you go back and exactly. I mean, you go back and we're talking about, you know, there's teams there, and it's like, you know, 10, 12 years ago, you know, our first couple of years when I was here in 02 and 03, you didn't want to play West Frankfort. They went 9-0, 9-0, 2 years in a row with the Ryan Pattons and those. You didn't want to play them. And then last couple of years, everybody's knocking on the door to play someone like them. 4 or 5 years ago, you didn't want Massac County. You run through cycles, but I think that when you pick and choose who's down and who's up, or you don't want to travel and you want to play schools like up around Nashville, you know, they play one game they cross over. They want to play Modern Day. They want to play Columbia, and those schools right there for travel when they got schools where this conference was formed 15, 18 years ago. And if you had trouble scheduling, conference schools are supposed to take care of each other. And that was brought up in the meeting, but I feel like, yeah, you know, and the bottom line I feel like, and I brought up in the meeting in May, guys, was at some point people have to realize administration, coaches, ADs, the community, every town has its niche, or every town knows what kind of team, and not just, there's certain, in a sport, where some schools are never going to be 15, 20 years in the playoffs straight and win a conference every year and be competitive. Some schools are cross-country schools, you know what I mean? Sure. Some schools are a basketball town. They're not going to be year in, year out in the playoffs. Some schools are a football town. And that's reality. You know, you're trying to get a new coach in, you have turnover coaches, but I feel like, you know, you go back and look through, you know, just a prime example, I've said it, you know, 2 coaches in Pinckneyville in 35, 40 years, 2 coaches in DuPont for 35, 40 years, basketball and football, two great schools. That turnover of coaches, they didn't have any turnover. When you start getting 4, 5, 6 head coaches and assistant coaches in 10, 12 years, there's no groundwork, and you just got to fight through the bad times and build your program from the ground up and stick with it, and eventually it turn around instead of, like you said, quick fix and, well, they're going to be good next couple of years, so we don't want to play Heron. Let's go play this team that hasn't won a conference game in 10 years. But sometimes you got to, as an AD and whatever, you got to reality and say, listen, you know, we're not a football town. We're never going to be consistently good every year. We just don't have the talent. We're a cross-country team or town. We're a basketball town. That's the way it's been for a long time, and I think it's going back in people's minds.
Speaking of that, we could have a show, and I think we're going to need to in the future maybe to talk more about football scheduling, but we have our final question for you today. You know what it is. It's our Sports Social Media Question of the Week. This week's question is, What is your favorite type of music you like to listen to?
Country.
Well, who specifically country-wise?
Oh, I don't even really know. I don't know. I don't really listen. I don't know. I don't know really. I don't know. I just listen to all kinds, but radio. I don't really have time to listen to radio too much. So
I hear you.
I'm around, but that's that's whatever.
I know. You got football starting up, and then Michigan football starting up. You're going to be busy over the next 3 or 4 months. I know.
Yeah, I got busy this morning. We got our big fundraiser at the Hare and Elk, so people are listening. It's from 11 to 6, and get your pork steak, green beans, and baked potato for $10. So.
All right. Jason, thanks for joining us this morning. We'll have you on in a couple weeks when we start breaking down the River to River Conference and Heron football. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you when that football show comes around.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good morning.
All right, thank you. That's Jason Carnes, head football coach of the Heron Tigers, and we'll talk about high school football scheduling a bit. We're behind. We need to take a quick break and come back. We're going to talk track with Andy Salone, the Benton girls track coach, here after the break on the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
I'm Jason Lohr with a look at your next rad weather. Cloudy and humid for today as we see a shower, thunderstorm, and spots. High of 85, clouds break tonight. Low 58, sunny skies return tomorrow. High of 81. We're down to 60 for tomorrow night. Sunny skies again, a beautiful day on Monday. High of 83. Humid on Tuesday as clouds break for some sun. High of 85. We could see a thunderstorm on Wednesday. Next rad weather from WMIX, Mount Vernon, Illinois.
What does technology sound like? Is it the clang of heavy machinery, the beeps and chirps of an electronic gadget? At the new Good Samaritan Regional Health Center, technology sounds a little something like this.
It's the sound of a young girl excited because her mom's being released the same day as her minimally invasive surgery. Thanks to the Da Vinci surgical robot, our surgeons' hand motions are seamlessly translated into smaller, more precise movements. But surgery isn't the only way Good Samaritan is raising the bar for advanced healthcare in Southern Illinois.
That's the sound of a patient's health record being updated and stored electronically for immediate access by nurses, primary care doctors, and specialists alike. That's why soon, the new Good Samaritan Regional Health Center will use all electronic patient health records. Less paper translates to faster, better care for you. And that sounds a little something like this.
The new Good Samaritan Regional Health Center, raising a hospital, raising the bar.
Southern Illinois now has a better home for sports. It's the all-new WMIXSports.com. Jam-packed with local scores, video highlights, and archives of every local sports broadcast on WMIX. Did your team win? Missed that game-winning shot last night? Didn't catch your favorite coach on the Saturday Sports Show? WMIXSports.com is right at your fingertips. On your computer, your smartphone, your tablet, or your video game console. It's the all-new WMIXSports.com. Another free service from Withers Broadcasting.
Saturday Sports Show brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Mike Richardson with Ron Weinmiller. I'm Denny Zerwinski. Avery Barton in studio pushing the buttons. We got to remind you of a couple of events. Let me get the computer up here. The Southern Illinois Sting Travel Softball Team will have tryouts August 11th at Chapman Park in Woodlawn. 12 and under and 14 and under will be from 1 to 3. 16 and under will be from 3 to 5. If you have any questions, call Bill England at 244-9465. Moving along down the road as we move along, we're going to try to connect with Andy Salone as we move along. We're having trouble connecting with him right now. We're going to move down the road to the sports editor of Centralia Sentinel, a good friend of all of us here in the studio this morning. Mike McManus joins us. And Mike, how are you on this first weekend of August?
Well, above and beyond the first weekend of August is the first day of a prolonged vacation, so we're doing really well.
Hi, we are cutting on a topic today. Ron Weinmiller came up with an idea about commissioner for the day at the IHSA. We've talked about everything from football scheduling to Massac County and their struggles with scheduling in multiple classes for sports. We've talked basketball. We're talking anything. Basically, it's a potpourri. What thing or things stand out to you as far as what you see covering high school sports that kind of makes you shake your head and go, that could be done a little bit better?
Well, I think we'll start with the most obvious. On when you threw the question my way earlier in the week to kind of study, Number one, can we please go back to two-class basketball and two-class sports? I just am not a fan of four-class basketball or any sport. There was a time when I could have rattled off every state champion, A and AA, and now I can't begin to tell you who's. I know Simeon's winning everything, but outside of that, and I don't mean any disrespect to the small schools or the 3As, but it's just, man, I would sure love to go back to the way it was, because I didn't think the system was broken, but apparently somebody else did. The other thing I would love to see, you've got to, you talked about Massac County. Well, Breeze Mater Dei goes through the same thing, guys, where they're 2A in one sport, they're 3A in another, then they're back to 2A. For example, their boys and girls cross country run at different classes, and none of that makes any sense to me. You are what your enrollment says you are. For example, Althoff getting to bump all the way down to 2A in football last year. That doesn't make any sense to me. Those are some of the things. I had a couple of others. I'd either like to see the state golf tournaments moved into Southern Illinois, or leave them where they're at in Decatur and in Bloomington, but start the season now. These kids have been playing golf. Most of your golfers have been playing all summer anyway. They're ready to go. There's nothing to say you couldn't start the golf season 2 weeks ahead of when school begins, and finish it at the end of September. So just a few of the things that I had on my mind.
Well, and one thing that I don't deal with that I know you and Danny and Hugo do, explain to me the reasoning for the IHSA to play the volleyball regional and sectional championships on Saturday afternoon of football playoff weekends.
Well, now, Ron, they changed that.
Okay.
Last year, in fact, this was one of my proposals to the Media Advisory Board 2 years ago that got through. The executive board voted, and last year we did get back. It was a nightmare. And on that note, you still have the nightmare in the spring with baseball, softball, all being on the same day. This past year on Regional Championship Saturday, our paper had 11 regionals to try and cover with 4 guys. Makes it a little difficult. You had to bring in some hired guns to get things done. But I would like to see in the springtime softball go to Friday. The pitchers do not need the turnaround time that the boys do. As far as, if you wanted to start a pitcher on a Monday in a regional in baseball, if you got through and you could bring them back on a Saturday, or start them on a Tuesday and potentially bring them back on a Saturday. The girls seemingly can pitch every day. I haven't ever heard of a girl coming up with a dead arm. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. I know that Amy Hari, who's one of the best that's ever been around here. When she was in high school, she pitched 5 days a week. Didn't seem to bother her much. So that would be the one. But the volleyball did get fixed. They're now back on that Thursday night. Now, they still do the supers on Saturdays, which, that's understandable. But at least they've got the regionals and sectionals back to Thursday night.
Huh. Okay, because I was bringing that up because I was thinking along that line between volleyball, cross country, and football, it makes no sense that football being one of the big money sports, to have volleyball maybe go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday night that week. I know football playoffs sometimes go on Friday nights. Would it not make sense to have cross countries, regional, and sectionals on a Friday evening and run them and not have to battle on a Saturday morning and then have to race to football games around the state?
I would absolutely love to see the regional sectionals and cross country go to Friday afternoon.
Right.
Like, say, a 4 o'clock start time for the girls, 5 o'clock for the boys. That's how they run the meets all season. I would be more than happy with that. And, the one thing I don't think, for example, especially parents of multiple children who play in different sports, I don't think a parent should ever have to make a choice as to what game they should have to attend. And I see it all fall. And in the postseason, you've got students that would love to go see the football team play week 1 of the playoffs, but they've got to run cross country that morning, so that's not doable. I don't see why you could not run cross country on that Friday, your regionals and sectionals. And on that note, I guess if we're going to completely fix the IHSA in the next 10 minutes, at the Class A level, what you're seeing in the section or the regional level is in some regionals, all teams have to do is get off the bus and finish the course, and they qualify for the sectional. That's wrong. That makes no sense to me. Or you'll see 22 teams in one sectional and 12 in another. We saw that in track and field this spring. That makes zero sense whatsoever to me as well. And I know the map has a lot to say about how things can be drawn up, but I'd like to think you could find some equity in these sectionals. And if you create another sectional, so be it. You create another one. But it would sure be nice for everybody to get the same fair fight in the postseason.
Here's another topic of mine, kind of a pet peeve, kind of along with golf. I do like the idea of golf starting early because especially down here, the SIGA has a junior program and they're playing in tournaments anyway all summer. Why not start it like now? I mean, it's crazy, Mike, but junior high baseball and softball has games day in Mount Vernon, the county teams here. It's crazy to think they start that early. Why not golf? Here's another topic of mine. The football state championships. We've always been told over the years, let's put everything in the middle part of the state so everybody can get to it. Last year, on odd-numbered years, they decided to go to that the football state titles would go to DeKalb, Illinois, and NIU. Would it not make more sense to kind of, if they can't have it at Champaign every year, to move it in the middle of the state, whether it's Illinois State, Eastern, maybe a Southern? I mean, if we can go north, why can't they move something south once in a while?
Well, in a perfect world, that would work, and I know they're going to say, well, obviously the population base of this state all is up on I-80 and above, so that one I kind of understood. I don't like it, and I agree with you in principle, but I do understand. I wouldn't mind seeing 1A through 4A down here at Eastern, at Carbondale, and maybe 5A up, play up north, where the population lies for those. We don't have many 1A football programs down here, if any at all. I'm really trying to think south of really Springfield, how many 1A football programs are there? Aren't many. Pretty much everybody in 1A either co-ops to become a 2A or they play fall baseball and don't offer football. So you don't have much in 1A football down here, but you do have, several 2As, and obviously 3A and 4A is primarily where we lie down here. And you've got the handful of 7s and 8s over in the Metro East, but I'd be all right with a split venue. Why not run off, 4 games on Friday at Eastern Illinois and 4 games on Saturday at DeKalb, and then, rotate the next year? I would like to see those things. I guess the other two things, Danny, if we're going to fix the IHSA, and one of them is the ultimate pet peeve of mine. Let's all play, and again, it goes back to let's all play by the same rules in the postseason. If sectional complexes are good enough for the guys in Chicago, they're good enough for us down here. And I would love to see the sectional complex return in all sports, and largely we're talking basketball. I mean, but I would love to see the sectional complex return now. However, with the way they've redrawn the map a little bit, it's a little self-serving for some of these schools now who were in favor of the sectional complex to say, hey, let's just keep these regionals because we can win them. We're getting the right pool of teams in our regional every year, but I would be in favor certainly of a sectional complex returning.
And that was something that you hear from a statewide level of basketball coaches. Neil Alexander's the one that beats on the table the most from Lincoln, that says if it's good enough for those guys, why can't it be good enough for us? But my question to you is, I think this is something for 10 or 12 years Centralia football was what it was, and now that Coach Callings really got things rolling, does Centralia fall into the trap that most successful programs fall into, where it now becomes difficult to find people to play?
Well, I'll tell you, Ron, one of the things that's happened, one of the big problems now, for not only for Centralia, but for Mount Vernon as well, we've had the Central State 8 max itself out.
to where they're pure in-conference football. They don't go out of their league now with the addition of the Decatur schools starting in 2014. Centralia had Springfield High School on the schedule for next year, week 2, and had a 2-year contract signed, and now that contract's null and void. So now they're kind of scrambling to find someone to play. And I know Mount Vernon will lose Rochester off the schedule, which Coach Shaner might, be thanking the Central State 8 for closing up and going to all inside conference play. But yeah, the football scheduling has got just really tough. I mean, and I can't imagine an independent like Breeze Mater Dei and how they get it done year in and year out. It's got to be a nightmare trying to find a week 6 game, for example, when everyone around you is in conference play, and if they have an even amount of teams, you're stuck. It forces you to go on the road, and we see, Mater Dei now playing 2 St. Louis teams with Lift for Life and Priory Academy over in St. Louis. They've been able to find those 2. But the football scheduling, I don't have any scintilla of an answer of how to fix it. I don't think district play works because of the disparity in enrollments. I just don't think it would work down here especially because you just have so many varying enrollments. And, you could have, for example, Mount Vernon could be in a district with Heron, with Benton, West Frankfort potentially, and I don't, McLeansboro. I mean, that Hamilton County, that doesn't make sense. So I don't think district play works. I don't know what in the world the answer is. Maybe if you don't tie the playoffs to conference champions and things along those lines, and it all be an at-large system, maybe the scheduling would get easier, but I don't even know if that would work, to be honest with you.
Well, and this is something we asked Coach Carnes a minute ago, and I know you and Chuck Lane are good friends at Centralia. At what point did the superintendents get involved in this and say, we're not going to Chicago twice to play football, we're not going to Indianapolis to play football, you can find somebody closer? At what point does that happen where superintendents almost become the ADs in some ways and say, we're going to play closer to home because we're not getting reimbursed the transportation dollars?
Right, and I think you're seeing some of that now. I think, and I don't want to call out a school because or a superintendent, but because I can't confirm that they were involved in the scheduling, but I can tell you that in 2014, Carlisle and Westland are going to play twice.
Because they dropped Benton.
Yeah, because they couldn't find anyone to play, and the teams they could find to play were 100 miles away. So why not just drive 20 miles down the road and play each other again? And I believe Massac County is going through that this year, if I'm not mistaken, by playing one of their conference teams twice. If not this year, it's next year. All in an effort to just try to save a little money. But I think you're going to see that. I think, and the hands-on superintendents that, especially with a sports background, and that's where we're fortunate here in Centralia to have a guy running the show that truly understands athletics, maybe as well as anyone I've ever met in Chuck Lane. That I think he's very involved. For example, in our holiday tournament. Now, Coach Colling primarily is in charge of the football schedule. He goes out and finds who teams to play, who he wants to play, and then from there, he and Coach Bennett, our boys' athletic director, will then get everything put together. But you're definitely seeing, Chuck is highly involved in the holiday tournament, the teams that we bring in. In fact, the last couple of teams were teams he went and found. And, he took that burden off of Coach Bennett to do that. He's that involved with the holiday tournament. So I think you'll see more of it certainly as time goes on because, guys, I think we can all agree this financial mess is not going to get any better anytime soon with the state and with state funding.
Is there a point, like you said, we don't maybe know the answer to football, but maybe there has to be something done because you're going to see a lot of schools having to play somebody twice, or maybe go to a neutral site and play a same team twice, or you're going to see schools with 8 games on the schedule because in the disparity, either they're too big or too good, nobody wants to play them.
Well, and then, yeah, potentially, but again, herein lies the problem. I think with so much of what we have to deal with in Southern Illinois, and we see it in the State House every day and from the governor's mansion every day, Chicago teams aren't having any trouble. And as long as the Ups teams are doing just fine with it, they're going to say there's no problem. Whether we have a problem or not is really irrelevant. As long as the folks up north of I-80 are doing fine and they have no complaints with how things are going, it's going to help get things turned around. I mean, and it's simply a numbers game. That's where the population lies. That's where the majority of schools in the state of Illinois lie, is, in that corridor. My goodness, how many just in Chicago Public League schools alone do we have? I think we have almost 80. You're better than 10% of your, IHSA membership exists in one city. And so I guess we can kick and scream and maybe scream a little bit louder before some things do get done.
Well, speaking of kicking and screaming, we'll give you our final question here, our sports social media question of the week, and this is going to be a good one for you. I know you'll have an answer for this. What is your favorite type of music to listen to?
Well, I can tell you what it's not. It's not rap.
Okay.
It's not country western. I am more of a classic rock and roll guy. However, I am also, because I lived in Seattle when it all got rolling, I was a grunge guy, a Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Screaming Trees, those guys. So you can give Seeger and Hart, or you can give me Seattle, and I'll take either one. And as Ron Weinmiller knows, I'll sit back and drink a hot Sprite and enjoy all of it.
Hey, and we'll definitely see you wearing your old gear maybe week 8 when the Rams visit Australia this year in football.
I could flannel up. There's no question. I think I've got some flannel downstairs in the basement that I could put on for you.
Hey, wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe in October it gets kind of cool. Maybe we can all wear grunge, have a grunge night for the media or something.
Absolutely. We'd look terrific, wouldn't we?
We'd look great. Mike, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. We'll get back with you, obviously, to get caught up on high school sports in Southern Illinois, but we'll definitely see you maybe on the road in volleyball and for sure week 8 when the Rams travel to Centralia in football.
Absolutely. You guys take care.
All right, thank you. That's Mike McManus. We need to take a break. We'll come back. We'll get our thoughts on our favorite kind of music to listen to, and we'll kind of solve the world's problems that we've been discussing here with high school sports. You're listening to the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
Who has Ford certified sales and service technicians? Schmidt Ford of Salem. Who has a huge selection of new and pre-owned inventory? Schmidt Ford of Salem. Who gives top dollar for your trade-in? Schmidt Ford of Salem. Where should you buy your next vehicle? Schmidt Ford of Salem. Come join our growing family. Shop online at schmidtfordofsalem.com or give us a call at 618-548-1711.
Convenience and prompt service is what the Medicine Shop Pharmacy is all about. Pharmacy owner Eric Black wants you to know that his pharmacy's drive-thru staff will have your prescription ready in 10 or 15 minutes. There are 2 drive-thru windows and a staff member is always ready to serve you with a smile. Another great service is our delivery. We'll bring your medication to your home or office just to make your life a little easier. Here's pharmacist and pharmacy owner Eric Black.
What differentiates us is the level of service, the level of convenience. We have 2 drive-through windows, delivery here in town to business or home. And those kinds of things you just cannot get. And when you couple that with the connection, the personal connection that we feel with our customers and they feel with us, it really is we really have no contest with the chains.
Make the Medicine Shop Pharmacy your pharmacy of choice. They're locally owned and support the community too. The Medicine Shop Pharmacy, 2339 Broadway in Mount Vernon, or call 618-242-8776.
Hi, this is Joe David Cummins, President of Community First Bank. As many of you know, our new product was launched on 7/5/13. We named the product to reflect our core values of serving one community, one county with one product and serving you one at a time. Community First Bank's One product delivers value by combining the highest yield in the market with access to your funds anytime and anywhere through internet banking, mobile banking, debit cards, and yes, even by writing checks. Call us at 244-3000 for details. One, exclusively at Community First Bank. You will be one happy customer. Member FDIC.
What's love got to do? Got to do with it. What's love?
Wow. Saturday Sports Show brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
That's Mike Richardson. I'm Denny Zawinski. Ron Weinmiller in the house as well. Got to remind you of a poker run that's going to raise money for childhood cancer research. Poker run is on August 10th. There are raffle tickets on sale. You can go to our Facebook site, facebook.com/WMIX Sports. Like us there, but also find out information about this very important fundraiser coming up next Saturday. We've been discussing IHSA. We've been discussing our social media question of the week. Favorite type of music you like to listen to? Mike Richardson, you lead off.
I said it off air, and everybody knows pretty much this answer coming. Anything, and I repeat, anything but country.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, with satellite radio, I've got the dials preset. I'll run it anywhere from 50s on up to top hits. I'll listen to a little classical. Depend on the mood that I'm in. But I like a lot of the old original rap. The new stuff, not too hip on that. But yeah, just can't do the country. Sorry.
Ron, your favorite?
I like country music. Always have. Old, new, it doesn't matter. My wife gets a little upset with me. When we were dating, George Jones, He Stopped Loving Her Today came on, and she said, "Is this a good song?" I said, "It's just the #1 country song of all time." And she didn't believe me. I had to physically bring up the documentation to show her that it had won that. So I can go a little bit. Seen Hank Jr. in concert a couple times, enjoy that. Just really, I like going and listening to live music live, and that's always a good time.
Avery, what is your favorite?
Air free now. Remember, you had a total air free segment just a minute ago.
Yeah, and it's I gotta mess something up. Knock a monitor over or something. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Lil Wayne as they call him. So Mike, you can support me on that. But I like jazz pop, like older Maroon 5 stuff. Like I'm like Bruno Mars has a new song with a big bass line. I love bass line. Bass line's awesome. But yeah, so I mean, I'm really anything. I guess I forget. My mom actually told me what the direct genre was. It was like alternative pop, jazz or something. It was weird. Anyways, but yeah, that's mine.
Go to facebook.com/WMIX Sports. You can post your answer there, like us where as well. We need to take a quick break, then we're going to come back and give our thoughts on what we've been talking about all day quickly on the IHSA and high school sports in general. You're listening to Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
But now there's a specialist right here in town who focuses on digestive health. Mayo Clinic trained Dr. Tegpal Atwal has opened the only gastroenterology clinic in Mount Vernon. Dr. Atwal treats acid reflux, gallbladder problems, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcers, and more. For your appointment with Dr. Atwal at Crossroads Specialty Clinic, call 618-241-9071.
America is a nation on wheels. Everyone has at least one automobile. We use them for shopping, work, everything we do. But they can be a threat. Some accidents can't be prevented. Your professional Pekin Insurance Agency, Page Insurance on Crownview and Mount Vernon, can help protect you from a large financial loss when an accident happens. Call Page Insurance today at 242-7000 about low-cost auto insurance from Pekin Insurance. Ask them about the many money-saving discounts that are available. Depend on your hometown professionals.
Pekin Insurance.
Hi, Roy Schmidt, Lincoln dealer at Ford Square, Mount Vernon. Lincoln is on a roll right now with the all-new 2013 Lincoln MKZ. This all-new luxury sedan is available with a retractable panoramic roof and the innovative push-button shift. And the best news is we have a vast selection to choose from. Crossover lovers, do not forget Lincoln's popular 2013 Lincoln MKX with the available THX2 certified audio system and Bliss Cross Traffic Alert. See both of these luxury vehicles at Ford Square, Mount Vernon to experience a Lincoln like never before. Lincoln, sometimes it's better to travel than to arrive. The best selection of Lincoln luxury is at Ford Square, Mount Vernon, 1501 Broadway in Mount Vernon, Illinois, or online at fordsquare.com.
Saturday Sports Show brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
You know, we've been discussing the IHSA and some of the things that go on in different sports and scheduling and whatnot with very short time with another break left to get in. Ron, your number one thing, if you could pick from all topics we have talked about today, that you would like to, as an IHSA fan or otherwise, see fixed and changed?
Well, I think I'm going to leave basketball off the table because I'm too close to that. But
Okay.
I think the softball track thing, and seeing what Andy has built at Benton, and I know we couldn't make connection with him today, but make sure you tell him I said good things about him. I know how hard he works at that, and it's almost you feel sorry for him a little bit because here he is, he's busting his tail, he's got those kids, working hard for months. It's not weeks, it's months, and now your reward is you're going to get 12th in the 200. Or your reward is you're going to get beat by 5 feet in the long jump, and at what point do you start losing kids? That kid, Jenna Johnston. Jenna Johnston could probably go start on our softball team, but she made it to state in the mile. At what point do you start losing kids like that when they're freshmen, that it becomes, why do I want to do this and put in this work when I have really no shot at doing anything at the state meet? And using the IHSA's own numbers, their participation in track is 3,000 more girls, according to the IHSA's own participation numbers, 3,000 more in track than in softball. So my question would be, don't give me the logistical answer that we don't want to go to 2 weekends. You're supposed to be about the kids. You're supposed to be about what's best. So let's go to 2 weekends and let's cut it to 4 classes and let's make it equitable.
All right. Mike, your thoughts?
Probably more knowledgeable in every sport that I'm getting ready to talk about, and that's football. Probably the dumbest one in the room here with high school football, but I've studied a little bit of this getting prepared for the show today. The travel is just out of control. But I am not big on, and somebody alluded to it earlier on the show here, and I can't remember, I'm not big on the automatic conference championship being in the playoffs. When you're going to compete against other people who don't necessarily have to win a conference, I just don't know what a big deal that is. And when you can look back and see some of these conferences and you see these teams that maybe dominate this particular area regional through a stretch of time, and they don't play other people along the way, I always have a hard time. And I'm always big on scheduling. That's always a big thing for me. And I don't necessarily think that just because you win a conference that makes you, eligible to the playoffs, because we're in such a media-driven area now of you can find out any information by your fingertips. We can have people through the association, through local medias in their regional and areas, they can tell you who's good, who's not, and make this just more of a wide open getting bids to participate in the playoffs.
Those are our thoughts. You can go to Facebook.com/WMIX Sports to post yours or tweet us at WMIX Sports. We'll take one final break. We'll come back, wrap up this show, and let you know what we're going to be talking about over the next 3 weeks here on the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
This is Chase Landers with Landers Collision Centers. It's been said that in order to grow, you have to change. Very rarely anymore do insurance companies ask the phrase to go out and get 3 estimates. The new phrase insurance companies are asking is, would you like to take your vehicle to one of our direct repair facilities? This is a way for your insurance company and collision repair center to help relieve the stress you may have from your unfortunate incident. And, as Landers Collision Centers has adapted to this forever-changing industry, we are extremely happy to announce that we are a direct repair facility for over 10 different insurance companies. It's likely that one of them is yours. From dealing with your insurance company, setting you up with a rental vehicle, lifetime warranty on repairs, and of course, Landers free lifetime detailing for qualified customers, Landers Collision Centers literally takes the stress from your incident and turns it back into a shiny new ride for you to enjoy again. Landers is here for you whenever you need us. Big or small, Landers fixes them all. 1-888-LANDERS. That's 1-888-LANDERS.
The health of your kidneys has a big impact on your overall health affecting everything from your blood pressure to your bones. And if you ever have a kidney problem, Dr. Kangura is here to help. Dr. Kangura trained at the Mayo Clinic and specializes in conditions ranging from kidney stones and uncontrolled high blood pressure to chronic kidney disease. Dr. Kangura sees patients at Crossroads Specialty Clinic. For an appointment, call 618-241-9071.
Well, we are in the final countdown to Saturday Sports Show here on WMIX, brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
Yeah, it's what healthcare should be.
Danny Zerwinski, Mike Richardson, Ron Weinmiller, thanks for joining us this morning. We need to do this again because we flat ran out of time, but what we really wanted to get into almost.
Yeah, good time. Thanks for asking me to do it. You know, it's something we've kicked around for the last couple of years and joked around about, but really enjoyed it, and hopefully we can do it again in a year or two.
We'll probably do it sooner than that because there's a lot of always we can talk about. And, of course, we get into August and we get into high school sports and golf, volleyball, cross country, tennis, football, junior high sports starting today in the county. There's games this afternoon, which is hard to believe 2 weeks before school starts, but with under a minute to go here on the show, Mike, it's a big time of year. We're starting to shift gears.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're going to be starting, the football preview shows are coming up, and then it won't be long right after that. You're going to start hearing that round orange optics start bouncing around. The Rome tournament will be around the corner. Girls high school not far behind, and then, basketball. And, it never stops. So we're always excited about the time of year that is.
Saturday Sports Show never takes a Saturday off. And thanks to our guest, Matt Troha, the IHSA Parker Windhorse, AD at Massac County, Jason Carnes, head football coach at Heron High School, Andy Salone, the Benton track coach for girls, and the girls basketball coach at Benton High School, and Mike McManus, editor of sports section at the Sentinel, as well as doing Orphan and Annie games on our sister station in Centralia. For Mike Richardson, for Ron Weinmiller, Denny Zerwinski, Avery Barton, we'll preview high school football over the next 3 weeks. The conferences in Southern Illinois and teams on the periphery as well. Thank you for listening to the Saturday Sports Show. NBC News starts now.